You're still waiting for the text, for the apology, for the moment they finally come to their senses and say, "It was always you." You wake up hoping today's the day they'll remember your worth, that maybe, just maybe, they'll feel the emptiness you've been carrying. But each day they don't show up. You lose a little more of yourself. And the worst part, you keep calling it loyalty, love, or hope. When really, my friends, it's quiet self-destruction dressed in soft emotions. You're standing in a burning building waiting for someone else to put the fire out, when all along you had legs. You could have walked away. See, Marcus Aurelius once said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." And if we flip that for love, it's simple. Stop wasting time waiting for someone to become what you hoped they were. Stop sitting there praying they'll grow into the person you made up in your mind. They were who they were. They made the choice. They didn't misunderstand you. They just didn't value you. And no amount of you holding on is going to change someone who is completely comfortable letting you go. That's the part people never want to hear. It hurts, I know, because the waiting feels safer than letting go. Waiting still has hope, even if it's false hope. It's like staring at a locked door, convincing yourself it might still open while the house is flooding behind you. But, folks, let me tell you something raw. Waiting for someone who doesn't see you, doesn't fight for you, doesn't choose you, that's emotional self-harm. That's bleeding for a person who won't even bring a bandage. That's putting your life on pause, hoping someone else will hit play. You tell yourself they need time, that they're scared, that deep down they love you, that maybe if you stay quiet long enough, they'll feel the weight of your silence and come running back. And the wild thing is, they will come back, but not for the reasons you think. Not because they suddenly understand your worth, not because they matured overnight. Most times, they come back because the control they had over you is slipping. They feel your energy pulling away. They feel the emotional leash snapping. And that's what scares them. People don't chase what they respect. They chase what they think they're losing. Your waiting made them feel safe. Your silence made them feel superior. But your detachment? That's the earthquake. That's the shift. That's what makes them double-check your story, pause when your name is brought up, or feel that sting of regret they never thought they'd feel. So stop breaking your own heart, trying to prove your worth to someone who's already shown you they can't receive it. Stop romanticizing pain. Stop calling it love when it's really emotional limbo. The harsh truth is, your life is passing you by while you sit here hoping someone grows into the bare minimum. Enough. You were never meant to wait forever. You were meant to become. And when they do return, because they always do, you won't be waiting. You'll be healed, better, clearer, stronger, and they'll meet a version of you they can't manipulate, guilt, or win back with weak words. That's the full circle moment. That's power. So write this in the comments right now. I choose myself. Say it again. Feel it. Live it. And if this cracked your armor in all the right places, hit that like button, subscribe for more calm truths, and stay with me. We're not done yet. Number 1, they're not confused. They're just comfortable. Let's kill the fantasy, my friends. They're not confused. They're not sitting in some deep emotional fog trying to figure out if you're the one. They're not processing their feelings or going through something. That's just the story you keep telling yourself because the truth feels heavier. But it's time to carry that weight. Because the truth is, they know exactly what they're doing. They know your worth. They saw your value. They just got comfortable with the idea of you waiting for them to see it again. They weren't unsure. They were entitled. Your presence became routine. Your loyalty became predictable. Your love taken as a given. They didn't need to give effort because you gave enough for both. They didn't have to choose you fully because you kept choosing them completely, even when they gave you nothing but crumbs. And that, folks, is not confusion. That's comfort. That's emotional laziness wrapped in silence and half-replies. And deep down, you knew. But you made excuses for it, because it's easier to believe someone's broken than to believe they simply didn't care enough to show up. Let me ask you this. If they were really confused, why did they still manage to make time for others? Why did they still manage to post, party, talk, flirt, entertain, while you sat there wondering what you did wrong? Why is it that their confusion never stopped them from enjoying attention? Just yours. That's not confusion. That's calculation. That's someone who knows they've got a safety net in you, so they stop reaching for the rope. You became the just in case, and nothing kills a connection faster than one-sided certainty. Carl Jung said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. That includes stringing you along while they avoid themselves. That includes breadcrumbing you with just enough emotion to keep you hopeful. But never enough to commit. They don't want to lose you, but they don't want to choose you either. You've become their emotional crutch, something they can lean on when life gets quiet, when loneliness creeps in, when their distractions fail. And because you love them, you stay, you wait, you hope. But my friend, hoping for someone who uses your love as convenience is like filling a well that drains from the bottom. No matter how much you pour in, it's never enough. It's hard, I know, because the version of them you first met, the one who showed flashes of depth and soul and connection, that version felt real, but you've been holding onto a highlight reel while ignoring the full picture. And here's where Stoicism comes in. The Stoics didn't deny pain. They just refused to let it rule them. They knew that perception is everything, and right now your perception is keeping you chained to a story that no longer serves your peace. You keep mistaking indecision for depth. You tell yourself they're complex, layered, emotional, when really they're just avoidant. You romanticize the silence, thinking it means they're thinking about you. But silence isn't always deep. Sometimes it's just empty, and you're trying to find oceans in someone who barely has puddles. But here's the shift. Here's the part that flips the whole story. You don't need them to choose you to validate your worth. Their comfort doesn't reflect your value. Their indecision doesn't make you less deserving. It just means they weren't capable of holding what you offered. And you offered something rare, consistency in a world addicted to chaos, depth in a world full of surface-level interactions, loyalty in a time where people treat love like a game of convenience. You were the realest thing in their life, and they didn't know how to handle that. That's on them, not you. So what do you do now? You stop waiting. You stop holding space for someone who only shows up when it benefits them. You reclaim your energy. You pull it back like a tide retreating before a storm, not out of revenge, not to make them miss you, but because your peace is more important than their potential, because you deserve reciprocity, not confusion, because love should feel safe, not suspenseful. And maybe one day they'll wake up and realize what they lost. Maybe they'll finally see that the one person who stood by them when they were inconsistent was the person they should have fought for. But by then, you'll be far, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, gone. because you didn't stay stuck in someone else's confusion. You chose clarity. You chose yourself. Say it with me. Say it like you mean it. Write it in the comments. I release what confuses me. Let it go. Let it be. Because love should never feel like waiting. It should feel like coming home. And if it doesn't, you were never the problem. Number 2. Waiting is not loyalty. It's self-abandonment. You call it loyalty, my friends. You call it love. You call it being patient, holding space, or just giving them time. But let's strip away the poetic language for a second. Let's get brutally honest. Waiting for someone who continues to overlook you, who continues to pick others while you sit quietly in the background, hoping they'll finally turn around. That's not loyalty. That's self-abandonment. That's you betraying you. You keep calling it love, but what it really is fear. Fear of letting go. Fear of facing the silence. Fear that if you walk away, they'll never come back. So you stay. You wait. You keep the door unlocked, the light on, the energy warm, hoping they'll one day knock. But deep down, you know they're not confused. They're comfortable. They've tasted your loyalty, and now they expect it, even when they're giving you nothing in return. And somehow, you keep feeling guilty for even considering walking away. That's not romantic. That's a slow, emotional death. Imagine standing in the pouring rain, day after day, waiting for the sun to come out, not realizing the umbrella was always in your hand. That's what waiting for the wrong person feels like. Hoping for clarity from someone who thrives in confusion, loving someone into becoming who you wish they were. You think your consistency will convince them. You think your love will teach them how to love. But my friends, you cannot love someone into emotional maturity. You cannot force growth into someone who is addicted to convenience. You can plant the seed, you can water it, but if the soil is dry, it's not your failure. It's simply not where you were meant to bloom. Marcus Aurelius said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength that includes people. You cannot control how someone feels, heals, chooses, or shows up. You only control how long you stand in places that hurt you. You only control whether you confuse waiting with loyalty or recognize it as neglecting your own needs. Because the longer you wait for someone who doesn't want to be chosen, the longer you're putting your life on pause, and no one's worth that. No one. Let me be real with you. They're not going to wake up one day and suddenly become who you imagined. People don't change because you waited. They change when they want to, and if they haven't yet, it's because they don't have to. You've given them all the benefits of being chosen without actually being chosen. And that kind of comfort makes people lazy. It makes them take you for granted. And one day, when you finally pull your energy away, they'll call it switching up. They'll say you changed, but the truth is, you just stopped betraying yourself in the name of false loyalty. So what now? You reclaim your power. You stop waiting, not because you hate them, not because you're bitter, but because you love yourself more than the idea of them. You walk away from the potential. You accept what's in front of you. You grieve what never became, and you stop begging for closure from people who were never open to begin with. This isn't about losing them. This is about finally choosing you. And when you do, everything shifts. You stop chasing and they start noticing. You stop giving and they start missing. And maybe, just maybe, they'll come back. But by then, you'll be at peace. You won't need them anymore. That's the win. Say it now and drop it in the comments. I choose peace over pain. Because real loyalty starts with being loyal to your own soul. Number 3. They don't miss you. They miss the access. This one's gonna sting a little, but it needs to be said. They don't miss you. They miss the access. Read that again. Let it hit. Because this is one of the most misunderstood parts of heartbreak. You think their silence, their distance, their mixed signals are about confusion. That maybe deep down they still care, but just don't know how to say it. But more often than not, they don't miss the relationship. They miss what the relationship gave them. The validation, the control, the emotional comfort you poured into them day after day, even when they gave you almost nothing in return. You were always there, weren't you? Texting back fast, showing up when they needed a safe place to fall, reassuring them when their ego cracked, hyping them up when they doubted themselves. You were like emotional Wi-Fi, strong, steady, always available. They never had to ask for connection because you were already connected. You made love easy for them, effortless. And when people don't earn something, they don't value it. That's where this all went wrong. They weren't building with you. They were feeding off you. And now that they're offline, now that you've pulled your energy back, now that your emotional signal is gone, suddenly they're remembering just how good it felt to be wrapped in your warmth. But don't confuse that craving with love. That's not love. That's withdrawal. You were the drug that kept their self-esteem stable, the warm blanket they wrapped around themselves at night when the world felt cold. You made them feel important, even on the days they didn't deserve it. You saw the best in them when they gave you the bare minimum. That's not just connection, that's power. And they miss that power now that it's not freely available. Here's the tricky part. When they say they miss you, they might believe it, but it's not you they're missing. It's the way you made them feel. They miss the safety, the certainty, the quiet reassurance that no matter how poorly they treated you, you'd still be there. You'd still pick up the phone. You'd still answer. You'd still try. That's the access they miss. Not your soul, not your heart, just the comfort. And I know that's hard to accept, because you were real. You loved hard. You gave deep. You didn't fake it. So it's painful to realize that while you were emotionally investing, they were emotionally indulging. You were building and they were borrowing. But that realization, that's your freedom. That's what sets you loose from the fantasy. Carl Jung said, people will do anything to avoid facing their own soul. And sometimes that includes using others to distract themselves from their own emptiness. You weren't loved. You were used, not out of malice, but out of habit. And when you pulled away, the silence forced them to hear their own thoughts again. And that's what they're really running from, not your absence, their own emptiness. So don't take it as a compliment when they come back. Don't get excited when they like your story or send that late-night text, because most of the time it's not love calling, it's loneliness, it's ego, it's boredom. They don't want to rebuild, they want to refill. There's a difference, and you, my friend, are not a refill station. You are not free therapy. You are not someone's emotional crutch just because they're too lazy to do the work. You've got too much light to be dimmed by people who only come around when they feel empty. Let them miss the access. Let them sit in the silence, because that silence will teach them what your presence never could. Say it with me, and write it in the comments. I am not your access point. Because love should feel mutual, not one-sided. And next time someone wants access, they'll have to earn it. Number 4. Your stillness is driving them insane. Let's talk about what really messes with them, my friends. Your stillness, your silence, your calm. You stopped reacting. You stopped feeding the dynamic. You stopped explaining yourself. Stopped checking in. Stopped bending over backwards to fix a mess you didn't even cause. And that quiet, that stillness, it's driving them absolutely insane. Not because they suddenly realized how much they love you. No! Let's not lie to ourselves here. It's not love that's making them spiral. It's the loss of power. It's the shift in energy they didn't see coming. They used to know exactly how to push your buttons. They could text you something vague and you'd spiral, post a story and you'd overthink, go silent and you'd chase. But not anymore. Not now. Now you're just still, unbothered, unavailable. You've stopped reacting like they expected. You've stopped giving them emotional hits to keep their ego fed. You used to be like a fire alarm. They'd pull the lever and get instant noise. Now, it's radio silence. Nothing. No reaction. No emotion. No drama. And the more quiet you are, the louder it gets inside their head. That's the part people forget. Silence isn't empty. It's loaded. It's full of questions, full of tension. And when someone has built their sense of control around your emotional responses, the moment you stop responding is the moment they lose control. They start to panic. But they won't show it outright. They'll play it cool. They'll pretend they don't notice. But they'll start throwing pebbles at your peace. A like, a follow, a story view, a random meme. Anything to break the stillness and get you to flinch. Because once you stop reacting, they don't know who you are anymore. You've changed the rules, and that shakes them, because now they're forced to confront the truth they've been avoiding, that they never really had you. They had access to your emotional responses, your energy, your loyalty, but not your soul. And now that you've taken it all back, they're lost, spinning, powerless. Marcus Aurelius said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." That's exactly what this moment is. You could lash out, you could expose them, you could post quotes and cryptic captions and let everyone know how they hurt you. But you don't, because your silence says it all. You're not playing their game anymore. You're not reacting to manipulation disguised as mixed signals. You're not chasing someone who let you bleed while they sat and watched. This stillness you've stepped into, it's sacred, it's powerful, it's where healing begins. You're no longer begging for clarity. You've found it. You're no longer waiting for closure. You've become it. And that transformation, the one that happens when you finally realize your peace is more valuable than their presence. That is what they feel now. Not your anger, not your sadness, but your detachment. It confuses them, it scares them, it makes them rethink every choice they made, not because they miss the relationship, but because they realize they no longer have a hold on you. You've become untouchable. Not because you're trying to hurt them, but because you're finally protecting yourself. So sit with your stillness. Let it grow. Let it protect you. Because in a world full of noise, your calm is your power. Your stillness is your loudest answer. Your peace is your greatest flex. Say it with me and write it in the comments. Stillness is my power. Because it is. And right now, they're feeling every second of it. Number 5. The mind obsessively loops what feels unfinished. Let's go deep on this one, my friends, because this is psychological, not poetic. It's not about vibes, it's about how the brain actually works. And here's the raw truth. The mind doesn't let go of what feels unfinished. It loops it, replays it, obsesses over it. Welcome to the Zeigarnik effect. A little psychological principle with massive consequences when it comes to love, loss, and the people who let you go like you didn't matter. See, the brain craves closure. It wants clean endings, final chapters, complete stories. When we finish something, a task, a conversation, a relationship, the mind files it away, neat and closed. But when something ends abruptly, when it ends with no real explanation, no clarity, no accountability, the mind can't file it. It stays open. And it loops. That's where you come in. You were real. You were consistent. You gave them access to your heart, your loyalty, your effort. And then it ended. Whether they ghosted, cheated, walked away, or pushed you to the edge emotionally, they know they didn't close it right. They know they left things messy, unresolved. And now you're the tab in their mind they can't close. You're not just a memory anymore. You're an unsolved riddle. An emotional cliffhanger, something they didn't finish and therefore can't forget. And sure, they may act like they've moved on, they may post like they're living their best life, but you're still running in the background like a song they can't skip, playing quietly beneath their loud distractions. It's not love that haunts them, it's the lack of closure, the silence you left when you stopped begging for answers. The fact that you didn't fall apart publicly, didn't chase them for one last conversation. That silence, it created questions they don't know how to answer. Questions like, did they stop caring? Or did I mess up something that rare? That uncertainty becomes mental quicksand. The more they try to ignore it, the deeper it pulls them in. You ever wonder why they randomly pop back up, why they like something months later, why they still check your page, still ask mutual friends about you? It's not always about reigniting the connection. Sometimes it's just about trying to resolve the unfinished puzzle, to find a way to soothe their own guilt without taking responsibility. But the thing is, they can't. Because the version of you that would have let them explain, justify, or manipulate their way back in, that version no longer exists. They don't miss the relationship, they miss the access, they miss the predictability, but most of all, they miss the control. And now, in your absence, their own mind is eating at them. It's a loop they started by ending things the wrong way. A loop fueled by their own choices. You didn't create the chaos, you just stopped trying to clean it up. Carl Jung said, "Whatever is rejected from the self appears in the world as fate." They rejected the chance to grow with you, to heal with you, to choose you, and now they experience your absence as if fate is punishing them. But it's not fate, it's memory. It's the consequence of unfinished emotional business. So if you're sitting there wondering whether they ever think about you, the answer is yes, but not in the way you imagine. It's not always romantic. It's not always soft. Sometimes it's jagged. Sometimes it hurts. Sometimes it haunts. Because people don't forget the ones they left wrong. They obsess. They spiral. They loop. You don't have to chase them for that to happen. You are the loop. Say it now and write it in the comments. I am the unfinished chapter. And trust me, they're still trying to read a story they no longer have access to. Number 6. They're attracted to your emotional independence now. Here's the twist no one tells you about, my friends. The moment you stopped needing them, they started needing you. When you pulled back, when you stopped begging for closure, when you stopped checking if they saw your story or liked your post, something shifted, something powerful. They felt it. They felt your detachment like cold air after leaving a warm room. And whether they admit it or not, they're drawn to it now. Because emotional independence, that's magnetic. That's rare. That's what makes people wonder, wait, did I lose them? Or did they finally find themselves? See, when you were pouring everything into them, your attention, your patience, your hope, They felt secure, comfortable, not secure in the relationship, but in their control of it. They knew you'd answer, knew you'd try, knew you'd chase, so they didn't have to meet you halfway. They just had to be present enough to keep you holding on. But when that energy stopped flowing, when your validation wasn't there on tap, now you've become something they can't predict, and nothing gets under the human skin like unpredictability. We're wired to chase what pulls away. It's basic human psychology. When something is uncertain, our brain assigns more value to it. That's why people play games. That's why mixed signals work, because ambiguity triggers obsession. But you're not playing games. You're just finally done playing yourself. You've stepped out of the cycle. You've become calm, steady, grounded. No dramatic posts, no thirst traps, no guilt-baiting captions. Just silence, just peace. And that peace, it's confusing the hell out of them, because they remember how you used to be. Available, giving, emotionally exposed. Now you're different. Now they scroll your page, trying to read between lines that no longer exist. They bring your name up casually with mutuals, hoping to get a peek into your world. But you're not offering peeks anymore. You're not broadcasting your healing journey. You're living it, quietly, powerfully, without them. You've become a puzzle they can't solve. And let me tell you something, people are drawn to what they don't understand. Your detachment makes them feel powerless, and that powerlessness turns into obsession. Now they overthink. They replay the memories. They wonder if you ever cared, if you ever will again, if someone else has your attention now. They feel what you used to feel, and it's eating at them. Carl Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." That's what's happening here. You've stopped becoming what they needed and started becoming who you are. And ironically, that's the version they now want. The version with boundaries. The version who doesn't chase. The version who chooses peace over attention. But here's what they didn't expect. By the time they come back to figure you out, you're no longer standing still. You're not frozen in time, waiting for their clarity. You're moving, evolving, living. You're not bitter, you're just busy. Busy healing, busy growing, busy being the version of you that doesn't beg to be chosen because you already chose yourself. So when they reach out, and they will, remember this. They're not chasing love. They're chasing the control they lost, the access they once had, and the mystery you've become. Say it now and type it in the comments. My peace is attractive. Because it is. And it's the very thing they never thought they'd crave until you stopped giving it. Number 7. They left because they could. They'll return because they can't. They left because you made it easy. That's the part that burns the most when you sit in silence, wondering what went wrong. You didn't argue. You didn't demand answers. You didn't make them work for closure. You just let them go. Quietly, softly, like someone who loved too deeply to fight for crumbs, and they took that softness as weakness. They thought your peace meant passiveness, that your silence meant permission. But my friends, they were wrong. You gave closure without requiring accountability. You gave grace where they deserved confrontation. You gave understanding when they handed you excuses. And in doing so, they walked out with the false belief that they could always come back, that you'd always be there, that your loyalty was guaranteed no matter how carelessly they handled it. They walked away not because they had to, but because they could, because you made it painless. But here's what they didn't account for: time. time is humbling. Time has a way of peeling back illusions, of showing us what we took for granted, of forcing us to sit with the weight of our choices. And while they were out there thinking they dodged responsibility, you were evolving, quietly, slowly, completely. And now the silence is screaming, not from you, from within them. Because silence is not empty. It's not peace to someone who once had control. Silence is discomfort. Silence is exposure. It makes them look inward, and they don't like what they see. They thought they could replace you, that someone else could offer what you gave without the emotional depth, the accountability, the mirror you held up to them. But what they found out is there's a difference between attention and connection. And you were connection. They're feeling it now, the stillness, the gap, the shift in power. At first, they felt free, thought they had options, thought walking away meant they won. But now they're starting to feel something else entirely. Regret. And regret doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it creeps in at 2 a.m. when the music fades and the phone is dry. Sometimes it shows up when they scroll past your photo and feel something twist in their stomach. That feeling, that's not nostalgia. That's recognition. Recognition that they let go of something real, and that now it may be too late. That's the beauty of letting go without drama. You become the lesson they weren't ready to learn. They thought your silence meant indifference, but it meant evolution. You stopped arguing because there was nothing left to say. You stopped chasing because you remembered who you were before the hurt. And now, you've become unreachable, not because you blocked them, but because you outgrew them. Marcus Aurelius said, "Silence is a lesson learned through life's many sufferings." And your silence, it's teaching them what words never could. It's showing them what they lost, what they broke, what they will never get to hold again in the same way. They'll return. That's a given, because people always revisit the places where they felt unconditional acceptance, even if they burned that place down themselves. But you won't be waiting at the door. You're no longer hoping for closure. You are the closure. You're not the person who begged to be chosen. You're the person who chose peace. And when they come back, you'll smile, not because you want them again, but because you no longer need them to understand your value. You finally do. Say it now, and drop it in the comments. I am the lesson, because you are, and they're learning it in your absence, slowly, painfully, completely. Number 8. They will come back. But you won't be waiting. Oh, they'll circle back. That's the part they never think through. The moment they walk away, they assume it's final, on their terms, under their control. They think you'll stay frozen, still in that same emotional place, still hoping, still waiting for them to figure it out. But time doesn't stop for heartbreak. And while they're out living distracted, shallow, avoidant lives, you're transforming. Silently, steadily, massively. The universe has a funny way of humbling people. It gives them the illusion that they're done with you, only to bring them right back to the door they slammed shut. But by the time they knock again, you'll be on the other side of growth so powerful, you'll barely recognize the version of you that once begged for their attention. The one who stayed up overthinking, the one who reread their dry texts looking for hidden meaning, the one who lowered their standards just to feel seen. That version of you? Gone, buried in silence, replaced by someone who chose themselves and never looked back. They'll come back, that's a fact. Whether it's weeks or months or years later, it doesn't matter, because people always return to the energy that felt like home, the kind that saw them clearly, accepted them deeply, and asked for nothing but consistency in return. They'll remember your laughter, your calm presence, your genuine heart, not because they suddenly changed, but because they lost access. They took your warmth for granted. Now they're out in the cold, and nothing out there feels like you. But here's the catch. When they do return, they won't find the door open. They'll find someone new on the other side. You. Not bitter, not spiteful, just unavailable. You won't need closure. You won't need apologies. You won't even need to prove that you've healed. Your existence will show it. The glow, the peace, the calm in your eyes. That's what'll hit them the hardest. Not that they lost you, but that you outgrew the version of you they could manipulate. And oh, how that shift will haunt them. Because you didn't wait. You didn't sit around spinning in circles while they figured out who they were. You transformed. You used the silence as fuel. You used the pain as a mirror. You became the person you were always meant to be, not because of them, but because of what they taught you when they left. And that transformation, that's the craving, that's the hook, that's the version of you they'll chase and never catch, because you're not stuck in the past anymore. You've moved forward, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. You've healed your nervous system. You've built peace in places where anxiety used to live. You've rewritten the story. And now they're just a chapter, not the ending. They will come back, but you won't be waiting. You'll be glowing, expanding, loving yourself in ways you used to beg them to do. And that, my friends, is the most poetic revenge of all. They come back wanting the old you, and find someone too evolved to be reached. Say it now and drop it in the comments. I've moved on, because you have. And when they return, all they'll find is the echo of who you used to be, and a door that no longer opens for the ones who didn't know how to knock the first time.